Imagine waking up tomorrow and deciding to change your financial life. Not by investing $10,000, not by getting a huge raise, not by becoming an expert at picking stocks, just by finding $5 every day. That's less than many people spend on a coffee, a snack, or something they barely remember buying a few hours later. $5 feels almost meaningless, and that's exactly why most people underestimate it. Because if I told you that investing $5 today could eventually turn into thousands of dollars, you'd probably say, sure, but that's a long time from now. And you'd be right. But here's the more interesting question. What happens to your life while you're waiting? Because investing $5 a day isn't just about turning a small amount of money into a bigger amount. It can slowly change how you think, how you spend, how you react to raises, how you handle unexpected expenses, and eventually, how much freedom you have. Let's see what really happens when you invest just $5 every single day. $5 a day is $35 a week, around $150 a month, and approximately $1,825 a year. Now suddenly it doesn't sound quite as small, but here's where people make a mistake. They look at $1,825 and think, that's still not enough to make me rich. Maybe not quickly, but wealth is rarely built through one dramatic decision. It's usually built through repeated decisions. Let's imagine you invest $5 every day into a diversified investment, earning a hypothetical average return of 8% per year over the long term. Returns are never guaranteed. Markets go up and down, and an 8% return is simply an example. But mathematically, the difference between saving money and investing money becomes interesting over time. After 10 years, contributing roughly $1,825 per year, you would have invested about $18,250 of your own money. At a hypothetical 8% annual return, you could have approximately $27,500. That means a meaningful portion didn't come directly from you. Your money started contributing too. After 20 years, you've personally contributed about $36,500, but your investment could grow to roughly $90,000, and after 30 years, your total contributions would be about $54,750, yet the portfolio could potentially reach around $225,000. Think about that. You didn't suddenly become a high-income investor. You didn't need one giant pile of money. You simply kept showing up with $5, and over time, the money began doing more and more of the work. Here's something nobody tells you. During the first few months, your life may not look different at all. You invest $5, then another $5, then another. Your account grows slowly, painfully slowly, and that's where most people quit. Because humans are naturally attracted to immediate rewards. You spend $5 on something today. You enjoy it today. You invest $5 today. Nothing exciting happens. Your portfolio doesn't explode. You don't suddenly feel wealthy. And that is the first test. Can you continue doing something when the reward is invisible? Because the first thing $5 a day teaches you is not investing. It's consistency. And consistency is one of the most powerful financial advantages an ordinary person can have. Someone earning $60,000 a year who invests consistently for decades can potentially build more wealth than someone earning $150,000 who spends everything. Income matters. But what you keep and what you do with it matters too. After a few weeks, something subtle happens. You start looking at money differently. Imagine you're about to spend $12 on something completely unnecessary. Before, you might not have thought twice. Now you think, that could cover more than 2 days of investing. You don't suddenly become cheap. You don't stop enjoying your life. But you become more intentional. That's an important difference. The goal isn't to ask, can I spend this? The goal is to ask, is this worth what I'm giving up? Sometimes the answer is absolutely yes. Buy the concert ticket. Go out with your friends. Order the food you genuinely enjoy. Personal finance should help you live, not punish you for living. But other times you realize you're spending money automatically. And automatic spending is dangerous because it doesn't feel expensive. One small purchase doesn't hurt. But hundreds of small purchases repeated for years, that's where the story changes. By now, the most important thing may no longer be the amount. It's the fact that investing has become automatic. And this is where the strategy gets powerful. Imagine your $5 daily investment happens automatically. You don't need motivation every morning. You don't need to remember. You don't need to ask yourself whether the market is having a good day. The system simply runs. That matters because motivation is unreliable. Some days you're excited about your future. Other days you just want to order expensive takeout and forget about your budget. A system doesn't care how motivated you feel. And that's one of the biggest differences between people who say they'll invest and people who actually do it. They remove the decision. They automate it. Your future self receives money before your current self gets the opportunity to accidentally spend all of it. Compounding sounds complicated. It isn't. Imagine you invest $100. It grows by 8%. Now you have $108. The next year, you're not earning a return only on your original $100. You're earning a return on $108. Then the process repeats. Your gains can begin producing gains. That's the basic idea. At first, it feels unimpressive because the snowball is tiny. But imagine rolling a tiny snowball down a mountain. At the beginning, it barely changes. Then it gets bigger and bigger. Eventually, the snowball is growing partly because of what you added, and partly because of everything it already collected. Your investment works similarly. In the beginning, your contributions matter most. Later, if investments grow over time, the accumulated money can begin having a much larger impact. That's why time is so powerful. Not because it guarantees you'll become rich, but because time gives compounding more opportunities to work. Here's where your life can really begin to change. Let's say you start with $5 a day. That's it. Then 1 year later, you get a raise. Instead of increasing your lifestyle by every extra dollar you earn, you increase your investment slightly. Maybe $5 becomes $7. Later, $7 becomes $10. Then you start investing part of bonuses. Maybe part of your tax refund. Maybe half of your next raise. Now remember, the person who began investing didn't start by waiting until they had lots of money. They started with a small habit, and habits scale. That's the hidden advantage. If you can't manage the habit with $5, getting $500 more may not automatically fix anything. But if you've already built the system, more income can flow into a system that already works. This is how small beginnings can become powerful, not because $5 itself is magical, but because $5 can become the first brick. Let's go one step further. At $5 every day, you would personally contribute approximately $73,000 over 40 years. At a hypothetical average annual return of 8%, assuming consistent investing over time, that money could potentially grow to roughly $480,000. Again, that's not guaranteed. Actual returns vary. Taxes, fees, inflation, and the timing of returns can change the outcome significantly. But look at the principle. You contributed $73,000. The potential growth could account for hundreds of thousands of dollars more. That's the part people miss when they say $5 isn't enough. Maybe $5 isn't enough to transform your life next month. But what if you gave it decades? We constantly underestimate what small actions can become when repeated longer than everyone else is willing to repeat them. Let's imagine two people. Both earn the same income. Both start with almost nothing. Person A says, "I'll start investing when I make more money." Person B says, "I don't have much, but I'll start with $5. 5 years later, person A might be earning more, but they may still be saying, "I'll start soon." Because here's the uncomfortable truth. There will always be a reason to delay. When you're earning $40,000, you think you need $60,000. At $60,000, maybe you think you need $100,000. At $100,000, your expenses have grown, and now you think you need even more. This is lifestyle inflation, and it can quietly steal decades from you. Your income rises, but so does your spending. Your lifestyle improves. Yet your financial freedom doesn't. Starting with $5 creates something different. You learn to pay your future before your lifestyle expands to consume everything. For most people, it doesn't begin with quitting work and moving to a beach. It begins much earlier. Maybe you have enough invested that losing one paycheck doesn't completely destroy you. Maybe your investments produce enough growth that you're no longer starting from zero every year. Maybe you have enough savings and investments to leave a terrible job. Maybe you can take time to learn a new skill. Maybe you can survive a career transition. Maybe you can say no. And the ability to say no is one of the most underrated forms of wealth. You don't need to be a millionaire before money begins giving you options. Every dollar you save and invest can potentially become a tiny piece of future flexibility. That's what $5 a day is really buying, not a Lamborghini, not overnight wealth. Options. If you're carrying high interest debt or don't have even a basic emergency cushion, your priorities may need to be different first. And investing isn't risk-free. Markets fall. Returns aren't guaranteed. But if your financial situation allows you to start investing, don't underestimate a small beginning simply because it looks unimpressive. The biggest mistake isn't necessarily starting with $5. The biggest mistake is believing that because you can't start big, you shouldn't start at all. Because one day you'll look back, and that $5 won't matter because it was a huge amount. It will matter because it was the moment you stopped waiting, the moment you decided your financial future deserved something, even if all you could give it was $5. So tomorrow you could spend $5 and forget where it went. Or you could invest it and begin building a habit that might still be working for you decades from now. Not because $5 changes your life overnight, but because the person who invests $5 today can become the person who invests more tomorrow, and the person who keeps doing it can slowly build something far bigger than they ever expected. Build small, grow strong, live free.